Welcome back. Episode 9.5 Buy Sell Talk. Got my man Brian to the right of me. Cole Rodriguez, thank you for coming on, buddy. To my left of me. What's everybody wearing on feet?
Well, I actually had to break this pair out because I found out that you were into Pumas early in the
Yeah,
the
man.
80s.
That's right.
I thought it was I had no other choice. So
Right on.
I know that in an interview a couple years back, you said that the smell of these take you back to '83. So
Yeah, man.
I think that these aren't the Clydes, but it's the Puma suede. I know that b-boys and a lot of graffiti artists just the
Yeah.
go-to shoe of that era, right?
Yeah, amongst others, man. I mean, my Puma shoe back in the day was the basket. It was the
Mm.
all leather joint.
Gotcha.
I was feeling that one. The suede joints were dope, but they were
Mhm.
high maintenance.
Yeah.
Right.
We had to walk around with toothbrushes,
Yes.
and we
Yes.
would just be constantly cleaning them. You know what I
Word.
mean?
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
I like the all leather look. It was fly back then. It was premium for
Yeah.
the 80s.
Mhm.
Yeah, for
Everybody
sure.
was coming off of the Chucks, including myself. Canvas was kind of cool as a kid, but when we got into hip hop in the early 80s, things started going premium really fast.
Yeah.
And I'll talk a little bit more about that. I got something in here we can talk about in a minute. But
Nice.
Puma's always a good look, man.
Thank you.
Word. I also dug in my bag. Know you're in the graph scene a lot, so I threw on the Eric Hayes Dunk Highs
Yeah. man.
from 03.
Still,
I'm grateful they're still intact, but very afraid of wearing these today, being
They
that
look
they're
good,
20
man.
years old.
they look good.
Yeah.
Eric is a dope dude, too. Most people don't know he's an OG
Yeah.
graph writer. He famously appears in Style Wars.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
The
Yes.
first
yes.
hip hop documentary in '82. They filmed it. Actually, it's the 40th anniversary of Star Wars. So shout out
Nice.
to my man Henry C.
There we
He was the
are.
producer. Tony Silva died, unfortunately, but he was the director. It's a great and very iconic documentary. But Hayes, I think he was writing SC3 back then.
Mm-hmm.
So he's famously in that scene where they're on the bench on the Grand Concourse. It's called the Writer's Bench. It's him, it's Dez, aka K Slay, rest in peace. It's my man Scheme, and they're all just kicking it. But Eric parlayed his talent in graffiti into graphic design, and he famously designed a lot of early hip hop logos, including EPMD and a host of others. The list goes on, man. So props to Hayes. He's married to Rosie Perez these
Yeah.
days. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So he's doing his thing, man.
Nah,
Word
word.
up. And
Yeah.
I got on the plane Janes today, man. I just got some OG Jordans on.
Feel you.
You know what I mean? Just, because that's what I felt like. I mean, I like gum soles. I'm a huge gum sole person.
Mm.
So I got quite a few kicks with gum soles, man. And I just like to keep it, plain sometimes,
No, word.
I can't go wrong with an all black
Yeah,
colorway.
Yeah.
and sometimes classic, not so much plain, but just classic.
No, yeah.
Yeah, of
Black
course.
is classic, depending
sure.
on how you look at it. So
Yeah. I
word.
think anything with a gum sole is fucking lovely.
Yeah, thank you, man.
Usually
Word.
you can't mess up gum soles.
Yeah, man.
Nah, word. So, talk to us about what you do, where you're from, a little bit of your background, and a little bit of how you got into it and like growing up, stuff like that.
Cool, man. So I'm originally from Chilltown, JC,
Okay.
where we're at today. I was born downtown on 6th Street, but we only stood there for about a year before heading up to the west side. I was pretty much born and raised, well, not born, but raised on the west side of Jersey City, Grant Avenue to be exact. That's about a block from the university. It
Hmm.
was Jersey City State back in the day.
Gotcha.
So, yeah, man, I was raised off the west side. Did a lot of hanging out in Greenville, downtown. My mom is from the Bronx, so I had family in the BX. So I was constantly back and forth across the water, absorbing all of that early street life. Hip hop culture was starting to really develop back then. It was really blowing up, man. So I embraced it, man. I was always into art, so I gravitated towards the visual element of hip hop, which is graffiti.
Mm.
Mhm.
So in the early 80s, I'm a young toy. I'm trying my hand at different styles. I'm seeing it everywhere. I'm feeling real hype about it. I'm like, yo, this is crazy. And I just start getting good at it, man. And, I want to say late 83, 84, my uncle, who's only about 4 years older than me, he was in the scene and he gave me the name Coe. He said, you should write Coe, Coe. And I said, damn, that's kind of fly. Short names were in style back
Mhm.
then. So I was digging it. So just writing, getting my little swerve on, getting good, going to New York, watching trains. There's something called benching where you would go to a certain stop, let's say 125th Street. You would post up on a station and you would just watch trains go by. And by doing so, you would pick up style. I started taking photographs of trains. That was a big thing back then, documenting. I'll talk more about that later. And like I said, man, I was committed to it, but the whole time as I'm writing, I'm also involved in the fashion component of hip hop. We were the fresh kids, dipped from head to toe. Footwear was changing back then. We were going from like Nike Cortez to, the premium leather upper kicks, the Adidas shell toes, the Pumas, the baskets I was talking about earlier. And we just started really figuring it out, how to really, lock in the look with your footwear. The La Tigre shirt, if it was white, we'd have on like black Lees, and then we would match it with, let's say, black and white shell toes. It was always about keeping things fly and uniform. So we were learning very early on how to be, fashion forward and just really being fresh. So when we weren't bombing, we were going to jams, we were b-boying, and even before you hit the floor, you had to walk in looking dope.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Gazelle glasses. If you had gold, you had a little nameplate on. So the fashion was very important, man. And I think that's what ushered in the whole, footwear game very early on. Was the clothes, trying to match it with the sneakers, and then getting really deep in the footwear, trying to outdo each other with, different colors. There was a spot famously in the Bronx called Jew Man's.
Mm.
It was a clothing store, and everybody would go to Jew Man's for the flavor, Adidas and Pumas and all the fly shit. You go to Jew Man's, the gear, the whole nine. And I was told by a good friend of mine who worked there, my man Dave Goodson, he famously used to DJ at the Latin Quarter for a minute.
Mm.
He told me that they used to color the kicks in the basement of Jew Man's. Like they had some kind of specialty thing going on where if you wanted like a mint green form stripe, so the stripe on the Puma is called the form stripe for people that don't know. So they would literally be in the basement with like
Colored.
markers,
Yeah.
Over it.
just customizing these kicks
Jesus.
just to get the kids to buy them. Like, yo, we got the money green joints down
Yeah.
here, and they didn't have those on Delancey Street. That's only
Mhm.
because cats were getting on their customization tips. So
Right.
yeah, man, the whole sneaker culture is really deep, going back to the late 70s, early 80s. And
Yeah.
I was just glad to be a part of it, man.
Nah, word. I feel like it was a lot harder then than it is now to like get in your bag and like actually look fresh, because
Yeah.
now you have all these different types of like standards or like different types of people you can look at and be like, oh, I
Right.
want to emulate that. I feel like back then it was more of a I just want to compete with the guy next to me, and as long as I'm beating him, like I can be good. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you almost have a playbook these days.
Exactly.
Because hip hop is commodified, it's packaged up, it's ready
Yeah.
for you. Back then, there was no blueprint. We were just getting busy as we went along, sort of learning on the job.
Nah, word.
And it was always competitive. It was about outdoing each other very early. I remember, La Tigre shirts were big in the early 80s, right? The joint with the tiger.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember, cats rocking certain colors. And one day I was like, I'm going to just splash everyone. I'm going to get something I know they don't have. So I bought this dope heather gray joint with burgundy stripes. And I remember going to school with it, and cats like, yo, where'd you get that? You know what I mean? And you never told people where you got stuff.
Yeah.
You know, I say stuff like, yeah, I got this in Brooklyn or some shit. You know what I mean? Because I knew they weren't going out there to look for it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was very competitive. And with the footwear game, laces were really big back then. You know, the fat laces, you would
Mhm.
go to the sneaker stores. They had just tons of laces, and you would just find ways to really customize those sneakers because stock laces were bullshit. Nobody wore stock laces.
Mhm.
So you would get these funky laces. You would match it to, say, a Kango or a shirt, and you know, you would just freak your kicks that way. If you were really fly, a lot of the graffiti artists, they would airbrush their kicks. They would take paint markers, like I was saying earlier,
Yeah.
you know, color a trefoil on a pair of Adidas or Form Stripe or whatever. You know, you would just get funky. It was just a really dope time for being fly, man. Because like I said, there was no blueprint. Everybody was just experimenting. You
Yeah.
know, like, yo, let's splash these kicks with paint and see what happens. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Let's put a pair of red laces in one shoe and sky blue in another. You know, sky blue Kango, red Latigra. And it was a scene, man. And it was just really dope just watching everything, you know, develop, whether it was graffiti, whether it was b-boying, whether it was DJing. I was just really a student. I'm watching everything come together, forming like Voltron. And I was like, wow, this is such a dope time. I even knew back then it was dope. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So,
I like how you bring up the fat lace look because in Just for Kicks, you mentioned that's the rice and beans of the outfit.
Hmm.
And I think that, well, one of the things I want to ask you, you think you perfected that science behind, you know, looking good, looking fly?
Like I said, I was a student. You know, I was looking up the OGs on my block.
Mhm.
You know, I remember this brother who's still around. We reconnected years ago. His name was Jesse B, black brother that lived around the way. And he was the flyest dude I knew. And one day, I'm talking like this is 81, 82. He comes down the block. He's diddy bopping. And he has a pair of crispy white Nikes on. I don't know what model it was, right? But they had no laces. He's coming down the block with no laces in his shoes.
Mhm.
And I'm like, yo, it was absurd. But I'm like, it's fly.
Yeah.
That shit that you see, you know, in jail, they don't really allow you to have laces because people hang themselves with shoelaces and shit.
Mhm.
So it was like a really ill look. And I remember, yo, I saw that. I was like, I want to look like that because it was so rebellious.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
Not to have, and the kicks were crazy crispy, white on white. You know what I mean? And I was like, yo, beg my mom to take me to the store to get those same exact sneakers.
Yeah.
Because I knew once I got in the store, I would recognize them. I get up in there and I get them, and sure enough, taking out the laces, busting them out with no laces on the block. My mother must have thought I was crazy, but
Mhm.
you know, it was people just experimenting with style.
Yeah.
You know, I even asked him one day to show me how to lace the sneakers a certain way. There was a style called cross hatching,
Mhm.
and it was a really intricate style of lacing your sneakers. You had to be shown how to do it. It was so dope.
Yeah.
And I was like, yo, Jay, show me how to do that, man. You know what I mean? We were always hungry for shit like that. So I'm learning, you know, from the OGs, and then I'm perfecting my shit, you know, as I'm going along. Because I already had a sort of artistic sensibility because I was always into art. So I was able to really put colors together.
Yeah.
To this day, I mean, my entire house is interior designed by me. And people coming like, yo, this shit is dope. And it's very well curated.
Yeah.
And it's because I understand, you know, aesthetics. I understand color. I understand balance and flow.
Yeah.
I got all that shit from hip hop.
Nah, word.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Nah, I feel it. I mean, back in the day, like I said, you know, there wasn't much to emulate off of. And one thing that I was fortunate enough to have as a older brother who's like 4 years older than me. So beyond him, I would literally look at like the D-boys in my neighborhood
Yeah.
and I'd like try to emulate that, but I would like take it to and like spin it in my own way. Because I was, you know, growing up, I was always I try to go against the curve.
Right.
So like, you know, growing up in high school, everybody's, you know, rocking J's and like all the retros that came out, you know, male, female, I would come out with Air Forces, but I wouldn't have like white on white. I'd go up to like either Little Italy, a mom and pop shop, or like Flight Club, or
Right.
anywhere that I can like obtain like any kind of Air Force that just wasn't the norm. And the same thing, I wouldn't tell people where it was from.
Yeah, man. It was almost like a secret society. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And it was serious, man. Like I was going from Jersey City. I was always down to go to any borough in New York as a
Mhm.
kid. You know, my mother would take us to Central Park in the early 70s when I was like 4 years old. So I already had this taste for New York City. You know, it
Yeah.
was just big, it was beautiful, it was exciting. And I was always down to go. I was shopping on Delancey Street for self. And that was really dangerous back in the day because, you know, quiet as kept, growing up in the 80s, it wasn't what you had, it was what you keep,
Mhm.
what you kept.
Mhm.
That was the era of being robbed for everything.
Yeah.
I mean, I had a friend that moved on my block. I think it was a Dominican kid. He bought a fresh pair of suedes, burgundy joints. They were super hot in 83. And I remember one day he came home in his socks.
Mhm.
And I was like, yo, what happened, man? He was like, yo, they got me for my shit.
Yeah.
They got my kicks. And I was like, word. And back then it was serious, man. They would
Mhm.
ask you, yo, what size are those, man? And if you were stupid, you would tell them. And if it was their size, that was it.
Nah.
They
Yeah.
they were gone. And glasses, cats walking up to you, taking the gazelles off your face, snatching Kangos, chains. I mean, it was bananas, you know, back then. So it was an element that we had to deal with. I mean,
Mhm.
being fly sometimes came at a cost.
Yeah.
And by the 90s, it got even worse. You probably remember the Sports Illustrated cover,
Yeah.
you know, with the illustration of the cat being robbed for a starter jacket. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? I actually have that framed and blown up at the crib. But that's how serious it was, man. It was getting to the point that, you know, cats wanted it because it was starting to get real expensive.
Mhm.
And they were just down to take it at any cost, man. So you had to be very careful with your footwear and your jewelry. You know, we were packing knives very early. You know, the
Mhm.
pistols didn't come into play until the 90s. But yeah, man, it was kind of serious, man. You know, kept you on your toes. Not like today, everybody's in la la land on cell phones. And
Nah. Yeah.
back then, it would have been Vicks, you know?
Nah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember like growing up, I wanted a Biggie jacket.
Mhm.
My mom, for the life of me, would not buy me that jacket because it was, you know, one of those things that you get seen outside and you're by yourself or whatever, it's gone, it's getting snatched.
Yeah,
And she
man.
was more afraid of like, you know, obviously she didn't care about the jacket. If, you know, it gets stolen, it gets stolen. It wasn't that. It was more so like my well-being because
Yeah, man.
I was a troublemaker growing up. So like I probably would have tried to fight back, get jumped, poked up or something, you know what I mean? So she definitely like wouldn't buy me
Yeah.
starter jackets, biggies. It wasn't until like maybe like I was a teenager that I was able to buy my own Jordans and stuff like that. Beyond that, it was like very minimal, like branding and shit like that, just because of
Yeah.
like where I was.
Yeah, man. And I remember a whole phase that was happening where if you stepped on someone's kicks,
Oh yeah.
like, remember, these kicks are suede.
Mm-hmm.
So if somebody accidentally steps on suede, you know, that's it. And there were a lot of fights, man, over people just having their kicks stepped on. And
Mm-hmm.
there was a thing too where somebody would bend down and wipe it like, yo, I'm sorry. And they would clean it if it was an older dude. And
Mm-hmm.
it was just an ill time. It was dope because you saw everything evolving, starting to you know, formulate, right? All the style, the fashion, the footwear. But there was all these nuances to it. You know, there was things that you had to learn the hard way, you know, and it was sort of the gift and the curse, man, you know. But I was always cool with a lot of older cats. I made it a
Mm.
point to always be cool with older cats.
Yeah.
You know, I remember I used to walk around and explore, and they had like a train trestle where we lived. And we went up there exploring, and I found a case of beer that these white dudes had stashed because all the white boys used to hang up there and drink beer.
Mm-hmm.
They stashed a case of beer. We found it. So I take it around the way and I give it to the older heads. And that was my way. It's kind of like the mafia, how you have to kick back to the old dudes. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's like,
For protection and shit.
yeah, protection. And it's just for, you know, you want your brownie points, man.
Out of
No,
respect,
word.
yeah.
Yeah, you know,
Yeah.
you want to be able to say, yo, you know, we got this for you, because there was a lot of times where we needed them to help us out. There was a lot of racial incidents going on back in Jersey City where, you know, white dudes were coming for us.
Mm-hmm.
On West Side Avenue, there was a block called Iggy.
Yeah.
And literally what separated us from the white cats was a bridge.
Mm.
So if you went under that bridge, you know, you were gambling. And if they went under that bridge, they were gambling. So where I lived was black and Hispanics. And a few blocks up, it was like Bensonhurst almost. It was so wild. They would throw bottles at us.
Yeah.
And I even got jumped one day. Some kid snuffed me because he thought that I was my brother. They were after my brother.
Mhm.
And we looked alike.
Yeah.
And I got snuffed over him. And, you know, all hell broke loose because my cousin, he was down with a crew of like these kung fu dudes. Like martial arts was big in the 80s.
Yeah.
And on my block, a guy named Master Ron Jeter lived there. Ronnie Jeter was a kung fu expert back then. You would pass his crib, he would have his doorway open, and it'd be these huge trophies. They were like 4 feet tall, lining his hallway. I think he used to bodyguard Muhammad Ali back in the day, but nobody fucked with Ronnie Jeter. And he lived right up the block. He used to send me to the store to get cigarettes and all that shit.
Yeah.
So when that whole thing came to a head with these white cats, all the dudes that were down with Ronnie Jeter's crew, he had a crew called Combined Forces.
Mm.
And it was just a bunch of black and Puerto Ricans that were tough and they all knew martial arts. They were the dudes you didn't want to mess with. And I remember that crew went to Iggy Avenue and just fucked everyone up because they were tired of them messing with us, their cousins, and you know what I mean? So it was a pretty ill day. But you know, that's what it was back then, man. That's what it was, you know.
Nah, word. Speaking of like people stepping on you and like fighting, like I said, I grew up a troubled child for whatever reason. I had both my parents. It wasn't like I was like, you know, malnourished or like miseducated or anything like that. But I just grew up in a rough neighborhood, and it was like either, you know, you figure it out or you get figured out type of thing.
Yeah, man.
So I remember like the first sneaker that I bought with my own money were the Nike Air Raids with the blue strap, black and white joints. So there was this kid, it was like 7th grade, and there was this kid who was like either envious, whatever, you know, whatever his reason was, just came up to me and just straight,
wow,
and stomped my toe out. And I'm like, yo, what? And it wasn't even like, you could see it from a mile away. It was like recess, you know what I mean? Dude just walked up to me on a random, was like, yo, fuck your, you know what I mean? I was like, yo, what's going on right now? He's like, oh, my bad. I was like, nah, bro. It was two things at that moment. Like, it was either we're fighting or like, I'm gonna just fuck you up. Because it was just like, I just literally felt disrespected. Like, it was on the playground, so everybody saw. And like back then, it was like, for me, it was like mama jokes and like stepping on my shoes maliciously.
That's when reputations are solidified. Those very moments, especially because it's like, whatever you do from that point on is your reputation.
Right.
Exactly.
If you walk away, you're gonna be the pussy.
Exactly.
You know, you're branded, bang, chump. If you stand up and fight, you're gonna be that dude that, you know, respects cats.
Exactly.
And yeah, man, it was weird because I remember there was a lot of fighting going on coming up back in the 80s, man. Everybody was fighting, man. And, you know, I just knew to always swing first.
Nah,
You know what I mean? Like, and there were fair ones. We actually went in the street and fist to fist, and we got it on, and I loved it because it was like, you know, it brought us from boys to men very quickly, and it prepared us because, you know, that era too, going to nightclubs in New York, it's crazy.
Yeah.
So you had to be on point, man. You had to be on point. You had to be ready to throw down if you had to.
Yeah.
You had to have at least 3 knuckleheads in your crew, cats that were quick to, you know what I mean? Yeah, man. So it was a good time, man. And I bought some items that, you know, I want to share with you cats because people always ask me, you know, Cole, what do you really do? They know me as a graffiti writer. I'm an artist at heart, but I've sort of morphed into so many roles over the years. And it's really because I'm going through my chambers in the culture. You know, I always feel like if you have talent, you should exploit that talent. You know, you should explore opportunities. So I knew how to write.
Gotcha.
And not graffiti write. So I'm a published writer. I knew how to take photos.
Yeah.
I'm a published photographer. You know what I mean? So I was just getting into all these lanes that were calling me because I was feeling it. Like, you know what I mean? And
word.
so I just wanted to bring some items that really represent different acts. I think everyone has at least 3 acts in their life,
Yeah.
right? So as you get older, like for me, I feel like I'm in my 3rd act now. You
Gotcha.
know, I'm in my 50s, so I'm like, this is like my 3rd act right now. So
Yeah.
I want to kind of run through really quickly some of the acts.
Yeah, for sure. And
just
that's one reason why I didn't that's one reason why I didn't really, usually when we have a guest, we you know, we obviously do our homework
right.
and then we, you know, introduce you, but I didn't want to be not disrespectful, but I didn't know what hat you were wearing currently. So I didn't want to say like, "Oh, hey, this is Cole Rodriguez. He's a, you know, published writer, he's a
right.
well-known graph writer, he's a well-known photographer." I wanted you to take the realm and like, you know, tell your version of it.
Yeah, thank you, man.
Okay, so we got a
So
OG Adidas box.
sorry. Yeah, man. So I'll start with the spray can, man. So this is an old Krylon jungle green can. This was one of my favorite colors back in the day. And this brand really doesn't these flavors don't exist anymore.
Mhm.
This is considered dead stock.
Yeah.
This color is very hard to find, man. So graffiti was my first love in hip hop, like I was saying earlier. So this can hangs on a mantle in my office. You know, everything in my office is like a gallery. So
Mhm.
it's just pieces of my life visually, right? Sort of like the visual soundtrack of my life.
Gotcha.
So the graffiti can is very important to me, man. It's what really got me into hip hop culture. I can't tell you the amount of times I've used this color
Mhm.
in pieces that I've done over the years. So I keep it just as a you know, sort of it's a keepsake.
Yeah.
It's a throwback. You know, when I look at the shelf and I'm like, wow, you know, the missions that we went on and the amount of paint that I've boosted over the years, because we would boost tons of these
Mhm.
cans to paint because they were expensive back then. So this is my sort of first love in hip hop. I keep it close to me just as a reminder, man, of where it took me. Because if it wasn't for graffiti, I wouldn't have done anything that I'm doing today in the culture. And as I speak, I'm developing scripted projects with LL Cool J and his team at Rock the Bell. So I'm literally the kid that went from graffiti to creating original TV content right now.
Gotcha.
You know, and again, that's all part of my travels. So as we get to the early 80s, we get into the footwear game. So I'm coming from Chucks as a kid, these cheap canvas shoes that my mother would buy for like $10,
Yeah.
but they were fly.
Yeah.
And, you know, they came back. So the Chucks really got me into sneakers. I started really identifying with being fly by way of the footwear, right? So as the early 80s are progressing, now we're starting to get into premium footwear, you know, and everybody's gravitating towards $50 sneakers. And $50 is a lot of money
Yeah.
in the early 80s for footwear. Remember, I was buying sneakers for $10.
Exactly.
So now these come along, the superstars, right? Now this pair is dope because these are the ones that I got for being in Just for Kicks.
Mm.
Adidas broke us off with these for being in the film. They're kind of fly too because the insoles actually have the artwork from the film in it.
Oh shit! Yeah.
Yeah, the poster
Run
art.
TMC, right?
Yeah, it's actually the poster art for the movie,
Yeah.
but they took a piece of it for the insole, so it's pretty dope. And these laces, man, these are from like '84.
Mm.
Mhm.
These are actually part of my dead stock. I mean, they're still crispy,
Yeah.
which is a testament to how well we kept everything.
Yeah.
So I iron these before I put them in. You know what I mean? And you always put a sock in here to prop them up
Mm-hmm.
so that they stayed really fly and robust. But the Superstar is significant, man, because this was introduced to the public in 1970, my birth year.
Mm.
So the year I'm born, they're rolling out this incredible premium shoe, which was really made for athletes. I think at that time, 75% of athletes were wearing this shoe,
Yeah.
right? So it was dope because it was the first real premium shoe. The uppers were all leather. The shell toe, which was the nickname for the shoe, was rubber. But this shoe has such a classic silhouette, man, that you could have so much fun with it. You
Mhm.
know, again, the lace game, you could put any color pair in here. These, if I wanted to customize these, say I want to make them hot pink, boom,
Yeah.
they're so easy to customize, man. So this shoe, and you see the heel hit right here, J for K, just for kicks.
Yeah.
I never wore these. I keep a lot of my kicks on ice, you know, just because. But this shoe, I think, single-handedly created lifestyle in footwear,
Yeah.
arguably,
Right.
Mhm.
right? And Adidas, when they told, I mean, Run DMC, when they told Adidas in like '86, and you can see it in Just for Kicks,
The
we
$1
want $1
million.
million.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That was because they understood, man, the
Yeah.
power that we had,
For sure.
the economy that we created around footwear.
Yeah.
And some may have thought it was really bold for you guys, but it was like, nah, I think they should have asked for more.
Yeah. Not for
Right.
sure.
Because that collection, that capsule that they rolled out around Run DMs made millions.
Yeah.
Millions.
Yeah.
So this is the shoe, man. This is the shoe that I think really created a lane for everything that we have here today.
Word.
If you look around and see all this fly shit, I think this shoe and perhaps the Puma made it possible, you know, for us to have our own stores.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? For us to have our own collection of sneakers with these brands, man. I've worked with everyone. I have a company that licenses media.
Mhm.
I manage a lot of, you know, well-known photographers. And what I do is I take their iconic material and I find homes for it.
Mhm.
Film, TV, apparel, books. And I've been doing it for years. It's one of the companies that I own. So, you know, I've worked with Puma. I've worked with Adidas. I've worked with Nike. I shot Nike's 35th anniversary for the Air Force One.
Mhm.
I was one of the photographers exclusively that shot that in New York.
Yeah.
You know, I was there for the classic Better Than I've Ever Been video shoot.
Mhm.
The director for Just for Kicks directed that video as
Yeah.
well. And he called myself and Joe Conzo personally to document that. We were
Mhm.
the only two dudes that were allowed to document that video at the old D&D studios in New York.
Yeah.
So Primo was up there. The day I was up there, I was documenting Rakim, good brother. I've known Ra for many years. And I think Nas came later and Kanye came later. You know, they all had different schedules, but
Yeah.
you know, he created this dope video really based on, you know, the Air Force Ones. And like I said, man, I've been fortunate to sort of bob and weave through this culture,
Yeah.
doing things that were, you know, meaningful to me and later for hip hop culture, which leads me to this item right here, which is my first camera. This is a Kodak disc camera.
Oh shit.
So this is literally the same camera that my mother gave me in '85 for my birthday when I turned 15. Don't know why she bought me a camera. I mean,
Mhm.
I was a vandal, hardcore at this time, you know. But she gave me this thing, and I was like, bet. Now, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the term Saturday Night Special.
Yeah.
It's a junk gun. It's the small caliber pistols a lot of cats used to carry back in the day, you know, 22s, 25 automatics. This was the junk gun of cameras back then.
Mm.
It's a pocket camera. You know what I mean? You opened it up and the film was like this circular, it was like a wheel. You just put it in, boom, lock and load it, and it was ready, right?
Gotcha.
Pop this. So I'm given this camera in '86. I start really getting into documenting graffiti. Actually, when I got that camera, the first wall I shot was in New York, a dope mural wall by an artist from the Lower East Side named Chico. He always did like incredible murals on the LES. And that camera, although it was cheap in comparison to bigger 35 millimeter cameras, it helped me develop my eye.
Mm.
You know what I mean? So it goes back to wearing Chucks, relatively cheap shoe, but it allowed me to start figuring out how to coordinate my ensembles,
Yeah.
how to put things together. So this camera is very special, man, because not only did it help me develop a good eye for documenting, and I've been shooting since '85. I still shoot. Like you saw me just shooting your sign.
Yeah.
I'm always documenting, and more so for my business. I mean, again, my company licenses out tons of archival material. Like every hip hop documentary that's come out in the last 15 years, if you read credits, you'll see my company's name in it.
Mm.
You'll either see my name or Cole Rodriguez LLC.
Yeah.
As I speak on A&E Hip Hop Treasures,
Mm.
which is devoted to finding hip hop archives. You know, I work with my man Paradise Gray and Pete Nice, who created the show behind the scenes, helping them put that together. I also supplied material for it. A new book by LL Cool J coming out this fall. It's coming out next month. It's called The Streets Win.
Mm.
It's on Hip Hop 50. Really dope book. They actually commissioned me to do a whole spread on graffiti,
Mm.
which involves tons of images that either I've taken or my colleagues have taken that create this dope montage of just graffiti over the last 45 years. So I was really honored to be a part of that project. And also my original artwork that I created in conjunction with Joe Conzo. I took some Joe Conzo images and I created something called The Essence, which is a really dope, collage of images. Those pieces that I created are the end sheets for the book. So when you open up the book, you'll see the end sheets right there.
Yeah.
So they're using some original artwork that I created as well as my photos in this book that drops next month. So I was honored to be a part of something, involving Hip Hop 50, man, because again, I'm an artist at the end of the day. I'm more on the business side these days, wheeling and dealing. But if I have an opportunity to create, I create. If I have any opportunities to go out and do anything other than being in my office all day, if it's that meaningful, I'm gonna do it, man. Tonight I'm doing an IG live with this woman called Harlem Honey.
Mm-hmm.
She does this dope show on curated tracks and shit like that. So I'm doing something based on my brand ATW, which does curated t-shirts, artwork. We've had the brand for over a decade. We sell pieces all over the world. We're a dedicated e-commerce store. So I'm rocking the 98.7 KISS T today, which was an iconic radio station for like 30 years. So I'll be doing the IG live tonight talking about t-shirts and the songs that inspired them. So this shirt, there was a ton of music that came from this radio station. I have a Latin Quarter t-shirt, which is based on the iconic Golden Era Club in New York. So I have jams that lock into, the Latin Quarter, Star Wars. We have the license to do Star Wars tees. So I'll be, playing tracks from that iconic movie. Yeah. Anything from Sugar Hill Gang to, I want to say, the Fearless Four. So it's a dope concept. I'm going to be doing that tonight. I'm going to share flyers soon. But again, man, anything that's organic, dealing with the culture, man, I'm with it, man. I'm never too big, to do anything that, pays it forward or really just continues to hold this culture on our shoulders, man, and carry it,
Nah, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I like that you mentioned the content you worked on in the past 15 years because my introduction to you was in a high school classroom and a short Netflix film that you did. You were actually cited as a cultural historian.
Right.
Crack, cocaine, conspiracy, and corruption.
Right. Yeah.
And I feel like that really just goes to show you, the vast knowledge that you display. And like the commentary you provided in that film really just, it's nice to see insights of that era because it's like I didn't grow up there.
Right.
Born in 2000. Thank God. Yeah. I was born in 2001, and it's like all I can really do is either read up on it or hear other people talk about it. So it's nice to see people speak on the way they grew up because it's like just like you said before, I'm also a student. I love to listen. I have to pay respect to the people before me because I stand on those shoulders at the end of the day.
Right.
So it's like For you to sort of have this like vast array of knowledge, it's nice to see that people are still keeping that alive.
Thank you, man. Thank you. And that opportunity came by way of a piece that I did in Jamel Shabazz's book, A Time Before Crack. Jamel is the Gordon Parks of our era, man. He's my brother. He's a mentor. This guy's taken me around the world with him. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have been in Just for Kicks. They invited him into the film, and he said, "Cole, roll with me." And I said, "I bet," and I had the foresight to bring those laces with me in a bag, and they just went crazy when they saw them. They was like, "Can you talk about that on camera?" And I said, "Sure." So if it wasn't for Jamel Shabazz, I wouldn't have been in that film, and I wouldn't have been in all these great cities around the world just talking about hip hop. And he gave me an opportunity to write an afterword in his book, A Time Before Crack. It's an excellent book that really documents life before the crack cocaine epidemic. All these beautiful souls, before that drug came and destroyed people. And I did a piece called And Then Came Crack. So, I talked about, my experience seeing it on the streets. The first time I heard the word jumbo, I was in Washington Heights on Broadway in 160 something, just chilling. And this guy's like, "Jumbo, jumbo." And I was like, "What is that?" I didn't know what that was. It's like 85, maybe early 86. And it was really the calm before the storm. So I just wrote about things that I saw, being an eyewitness, you know what I mean? And, just the friends that I had that got strung out on that awful drug, and just seeing people that I knew that were just beautiful and vivacious just become, sort of defeated, you know what I mean? And just really in a bad place. So the producers actually read the book, and when they were developing that film, the Crack film, the director, who was just up for an Oscar for another documentary he did on Attica State Prison, really dope documentary on Attica. You can see it on Showtime. They were like, "Cole, can you talk about it?" And I said, "Yeah." For me, I'm paying it forward. I'm not seeing it as an opportunity to be in the film. I just want it's an educational opportunity for me. I go and I speak to kids in school. Every year I'm in at least 2 schools, and I'm speaking to kids about hip hop, about being an entrepreneur, about doing what you love, because they're going to go to school and prepare to go work for somebody at the end of the day. They're going to get their degrees, and I don't knock college, but I think a lot of times school is just preparing you to work for people. And my whole thing is, if you love something, identify it, do it till it hurts. And then if you have any ambition, go out and find a way to live off of it. That was my goal. And I've always had money, and I've always had good jobs. I left good corporate jobs, a black car service from work, skybox at the Knicks game. I had all that fly shit, and I left it because I wasn't happy. I was like, I got to get back to doing what I love doing. And I just, said, "Hey, man, I'm going to find a way to make these visuals happen." I named my company 1,000 Words, ATW, because I think it's a reflection of everything that I've seen growing up. Like a picture really is worth 1,000 words. And there were so many things that moved me visually. I felt like if I'm going to do a clothing line, and I've always experimented with apparel for years, I said, I'm going to really do it, and I'm going to honor the culture, and I'm going to pay it forward too, man. If I can speak to kids, if I could be on a podcast, if I can work with these corporations to help that narrative stay in place and make sure it's told the right way, I'm gonna do it, man. This is not work for me. This is me getting up every day and doing what I love doing. I'm coming to work in shorts, kicks. I'm in my office chilling. You know what I mean? It's like it's the life that I envisioned, and then the life I ran after to go get, and it's the life that I'm now living. You know what I mean?
No, word. Yeah, one of the things that like I really love about like your way of life is like I grew up. My favorite subject was history. Not so much specifically like American history or like history from the past. I just physically love learning about stuff. So like one of the biggest things that I love for footwear is storytelling. And I feel like you've mastered storytelling in multiple
Thank you, man.
fathoms. And like, I really appreciate that, because I feel like nowadays everyone's so caught up with like whatever the new fad is that no one really takes a step back to look at the full picture and what's going on, and like, you know, how we've learned from the past and stuff like that. And people like you keeping, you know, the story alive, you know, whether it be hip hop, whether it be, you know, like I would say all around culture, like
Right.
I really appreciate people like you. And I just want to say
Thank you, man. Appreciate that, man.
Yeah, for sure, man.
Yeah, man. It's just again, you know, I'm at an age where I always tell my people these are our legacy years. You know, when you start getting to your 50s, you start reflecting more. You start looking back and saying, damn, you know, where am I at? Am I happy where I'm at? Am I paying it forward? You know, is there more that I can do? You know, I work like I'm broke and I'm not. You know what I mean? And it's just because that's my passion. You
Hmm.
know what I mean? Every day I get up, I'm working on something new, working on something fly. The emails come in across the globe. Cole, we're working on this. I just got hit up by Red Bull the other day. They want me to contribute to the BC1, which is the biggest b-boy competition in the world. You know, so they want assets for the upcoming BC1. Um, every day there's something happening, you know, and I love it. You know, I just see this culture continuing to grow. The resources continuing to be more plentiful. Back in the day, we didn't have a lot of resources. You know how long I was trying to get a TV show together, man? Like dope concepts
Hmm.
for years. I actually had a show that was stolen from me. You know, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Hollywood Squares. It was an old game back in the day where
Yeah.
all these celebrities would be in these little windows,
Hmm.
like the Brady Bunch.
Mhm.
And I came up with a concept for doing the hip hop Hollywood Squares.
Yeah, I remember that came out, Hip Hop Squares.
I pitched that to MTV, to Viacom. I had a meeting
Mm.
with their brass, myself, Grandmaster Caz, and DJ Disco Wiz, and we pitched that, copyrighted the whole thing. They said, "Cole, we don't do game shows." 2 years later,
Yeah, on BET.
their sister station, MTV2,
Yeah.
releases it. Contact my lawyers, like, yo, they stole my idea. And I couldn't legally fight it, you know, because that's $1 billion company.
Hmm.
I had to take an L, but it was short lived. It did one season and just died, and I was happy.
Yeah.
But I've been pitching stuff for years, man. And again, it's just what we love doing, you know, identifying opportunities, having the people to pull it together, make things happen. And, you know, once these series that I'm working on come out, I think we're going to change the game, man.
Word.
You know, we found the right partner with L and his company Rock the Bells. And I think that, you know, once both of these series come out, it's called a double threat. One is on the Latin Quarter and the other's on a guy named Brian Glaze Gibbs, who was a notorious kingpin from Brooklyn back in
Mhm.
the 80s. He has strong ties to Fat Cat, Pappy Mason, and those Queens drug lords and everything. But his life is incredible. His book is incredible. I read it and I was like, yo, we got to do something. So, yeah, man, that's going to be my third act, you
Word.
know, doing these scripted series, continuing to, you know, license all of our archival images, you know, to companies and just, you know, doing what we do, man, you know, just being a part of the culture, putting other people on, giving other people opportunities, you know what I mean? Producers, artists, you know, business owners, you know, however we can help them achieve their goals and dreams. That's where we're at now, man. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
And it's funny you say, like, you know, nowadays you strive on putting people on, because I know even back when I was growing up, like you said earlier, like the one thing that you didn't do was put people on. You know what I mean? You buy
Yeah.
something, you're like, nah, man, I got that from across the street. They turn around,
Yeah.
pops, you know what I mean? You're just gone. But it's a lovely thing to see now, you know, that you're just like very open minded, and appreciate you coming on the pod, of course. And it's like, you know, stuff like this and, you know, stuff that you do, like it really shows your passion for the culture itself. And like one thing that like comes to mind is like when did you decide like you know, like like one, like obviously like documenting was a thing to do,
Right.
but like when did you decide that, not necessarily that you were like, you know, you were wise or anything like that, but like you were able to quote unquote start storytelling, where it's like, you know, like I feel like I'm an OG and I can like go ahead and contribute now.
Right.
Like talk to me about that.
I just think again it's opportunities. You know, the opportunity presented itself to be in a film,
Mm-hmm.
and I just went for it. It wasn't like, nah, it's okay, man, I'm cool. I was like, you want to know about, decorating sneakers? I'll talk to you about it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I'm happy to share the knowledge, man. You know, back in the day, people don't understand. If you were part of the 5% nation, it was about knowing your mathematics. And I heard people would get roughed up if they didn't
Mhm.
know, their mathematics, man. With us, it was history. We had to know who were the flyest rappers, who were the best graffiti artists, who was the flyest dude, where did he get those kicks from? What It was constantly absorbing knowledge.
Mhm.
And I was into history too. I was into reading. You know what I mean? I was into just really learning as much as I can about the culture, man. And I think it helped me later. I was a smart kid. I did really well in writing and reading. You know what I mean? And that helped me later for book projects and stuff. But getting back to telling stories, I just think it was the opportunity, man, to, you know, share things. You know what I mean? Because I was always grateful when an OG would tell me stuff, even if it was something illegal, like, a kilo is 1,000 grams or something.
Yeah.
Like you would keep stuff like that in your
Nah,
head.
word.
This is how you make a homemade mop. It was a marker that we made out of, speed sticks. We would
Mhm.
take out the deodorant, we put in an eraser from school, and we would flood it with marsh ink. And it
Mm.
was a homemade marker called a mop.
Yeah.
Very messy, but very effective. So little things like that, where cats went to go to buy British Walkers. I was always looking for little jewels. So I had amassed all of this information. I still own like all of my Source magazines
Mm.
from the 90s.
Yeah.
Like they're alphabetized in a file cabinet, in sleeves,
Mhm.
everything. And I'll still go back and read stuff. And I'm constantly learning. So, I want to share it. I want to share this information. You know what I mean? So in sharing, we make, I think, society better. We make the culture better, because I did come from an age where people were sort of selfish in that respect. They didn't want to
Mhm.
tell you things like, this is how you do this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or this is where you get this from. You had to learn. A lot of trial and error back then.
Mhm.
And I just feel like if I can help somebody get there quicker, I'm going to do it. You know what I mean? And I do it a lot, man. Like, people trying to get into stuff. I'm like, go holler at this person, or
Yeah.
go, you know what I'm saying? Because we have the resources now. We work
Mhm.
very hard to get them. And I want to share them because it was hard, man.
Yeah.
They didn't want us in those doors.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, brother, I never thought that I would be hanging out with Puma at their headquarters in London, with them asking us for our opinion on stuff,
Mhm.
them looking up to us. You have to understand, we were kids supporting these brands.
Yeah.
Like $50 sneakers in '83. I didn't come from no rich home.
Mhm.
That's a lot of money. So we poured so much money into these brands. When I started working with Nike, I was like, reparations. I'm getting all this money back.
Yeah.
The Cortezes and everything, man. I'm getting all this money back. So I've been made whole over the years
Word.
working with these brands. I mean, I have more sneakers than I need. My garage looks like that wall. You know what I mean? A lot of stuff I just don't wear because I just don't want to wear it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's a dope thing, man. To be able to, now work with these brands, give them direction. You know what I mean? And even with my brand, I design everything that I sell,
Mhm.
and people appreciate that shit. Like I'm the only one selling a 98 point Kiss t-shirt.
Yeah.
And my idea for the brand was to do the same thing that companies that produce rock t-shirts do. Just like people
Mm.
get a Bob Marley shirt
Yeah.
or a Pink Floyd shirt. I'm like, where's the shirts for our culture
Mhm.
that honor our culture?
Exactly.
You know how important this radio station was to us?
Yeah.
Dude, I mean, Red Alert is one of my hip hop heroes,
Mm-hmm.
but now he's a good friend. I did his first exhibition in Times Square honoring him, you know, going to his house in Harlem, grabbing all of his archives, well, the ones that he had available,
Yeah.
and sort of telling his story visually.
Yeah.
I did that with our boy Sean Williams.
Yeah.
And this is ways that I give back. And I told Uncle Red, I love you. If it wasn't for you, you know what I mean? I wouldn't be so musically inclined, you know, because my knowledge for music is vast.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know tons of producers and DJs, but sitting in front of that radio on Friday and Saturday nights, taping
Mm-hmm.
for 3-4 hours, B. I still have those tapes from the
Yeah.
80s, bags of those tapes. And I said, thank you, Red. If it wasn't for you, you know, I wouldn't know all about this music, or I wouldn't be friends with Rakim and KRS and all these other cats. That really brought us into that world, and I wanted to honor him.
Yeah.
And that's the way I did it. I did it through a really dope exhibition. And Red thanked me. When he thanked me one-on-one, like, Cole, thank you. And he also gave me a shout out on the radio, which is dope. I didn't hear it. A friend said, yo, Red Alert just shouted you out on the radio. And I was like, wow. And he also gave me the blessings to do this shirt. I took him to lunch in Harlem. And I said, Red, I was with Breakbeat Lou from Ultimate Breaks and Beats. Shout out to my man Lou. And I said, Red, I'm not doing this shirt until you give me your blessings. Like, are you good with it?
Yeah.
And he loved it so much. Red did a video promo
Mm.
wearing the shirt, and he surprised me with it. Now, let me put this into
Wow.
perspective for you. Back in the 80s, if Red Alert invited you on Kiss
Mm-hmm.
to do a promo,
Mm-hmm.
that was a big deal. You hit the hip hop lottery
Yeah.
to be on Friday night doing a promo on his show.
Yeah.
Red Alert's doing a promo for me, for my brand. I swear to God, I was like tearing up. I was like, wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Imagine one of your heroes doing something like that for you. And it was like an honor. And it just showed me that everything that I'm doing means something. You know, so for anyone that's listening and they want to get into something, don't get into it just for the money. Anybody can make money.
Mm-hmm.
Get into it because you love it. Get into it because it can educate people and maybe help them in a way that they can reach their goals and dreams, man, because that's really what I believe life is about. It's just living something that makes you feel happy. It gives you purpose. Every day I get up, I have purpose. And that's a blessing for me.
Yeah.
I can pick up a camera. I could pick up a can of paint. I could pick up, you know, a keyboard and work on it and know that I'm doing something impactful. And that's my purpose in life, man. So if I die tomorrow, you know, I die happy. I'm not going to be one of them dudes like, damn, I wonder what could have happened if I opened up that sneaker store.
Yeah.
Or if, you know, I went to that audition. You know what I mean? Or if I made that mixtape. Like, I'm not one of those dudes saying that. Everything that I thought of doing, probably with the exception of making a song, and I was about to do that once with somebody, you know, I've pretty much done, you know, and my work is it's memorialized. So when I go, I'm leaving behind writing that's in books. I'm leaving behind photos that are in films. I'm leaving behind interviews that I've done. You know, I'm leaving behind a trail of shit that's emblematic of my life.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I'm proud of that because my grandkids are going to look at that and be like, yo, Abuelo was doing his thing.
Nah,
You know
word.
what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He was getting busy. So.
Nah, word. I respect it. Speaking of Sean, I know next week we have a panel that we're doing, myself included, with Sean.
man.
Why don't you give us a little sneak of what that panel would look like coming from your lens?
Yeah, so this is really dope. Jersey City's having its first day of fashion,
Mhm.
which is really, really fly. I'm glad that JC's doing some big things culturally again. And they've decided to do a sneaker panel. Martu, who's a part of, I think she was instrumental in putting the Day of Fashion together.
Mhm.
She works with Mana Contemporary.
Yeah.
I think she proposed something to Sean regarding footwear, a panel on discussing footwear and how it, I guess, correlates to fashion. And she invited yourself, well, he invited yourself and myself to do this. And I think it's dope. I think you represent the next wave of footwear enthusiasts and entrepreneurs. And Sean is incredible. He's the footwear dude. I met him about 5 years ago. You know what I mean? And we did an exhibition in Times Square called From the Feet Up,
Yeah.
which was a
Mhm.
huge success. It was so fly that Bobito invited us to recreate it in Anaheim, California
Mm.
for Disney's D23 event. They do something called D23 every 2 years. And it's like Comic-Con on steroids. It's off the chain. So we recreated one of our exhibitions with ESPN Plus, in Anaheim for D23. And then we did the exhibition again at the Port Authority. They were like, yo, this came out so dope. Can you do it upstairs in another art space?
Yeah.
So Sean is really responsible for a lot of that happening. And props to him, props to social studies, everything that he's doing, is sort of a footwear Svengali. Look that word up. You know what I mean? So Sean is that dude, man. And he said, hey, Cole, let's do this panel for, the first day of fashion in JC. We're going to be doing it with his brother Leo from Sold Out. And I said, let's do it, man. This is different generations coming together, for the love of footwear and kicks. And I think it's going to be a dope talk. It's from 5 to 8, September 6th at ANCO, 201 Montgomery Street in JC. And they're giving us their space for a few hours. We plan on doing a dope slideshow, some very iconic images that tie into not only fashion, but Hip Hop 50. This is hip hop's 50th birthday this year. And there's a lot of stuff that's going on. And I think this is part of it. We'll definitely be talking about the impact that hip hop has had in fashion. And it should be a good time, man.
Nah, for sure. I mean, speaking for myself, like I met Sean earlier this year when he had the again from the feet up, but he did a different exhibition where he correlated more so hip hop included, with it being Hip Hop 50, and he did it at Mana Contemporary and in Jersey City, right under Indian Square, and he approached us. The store, he's been shopping here since like 2017. You know what I mean? Unbeknownst to me, it was just regular, because Sean never like walks in rooms like, hey, I'm Sean.
Yeah, man.
He'll just
I love that.
walk in, walk out. If you know me, you know me. If
That's
not,
right.
I'll see you later.
That's right.
You know what I mean? And he came up. He had a brilliant idea. I fucked with it. It was super like organic, and it felt like his exhibition. I told him this many times. Like I felt like it was like giving me a lens of like where I was. You know what I mean? I could see myself like in every single different aspect of that exhibition. I could see where I was during that time, and if I wasn't yet born, I can remember the moment of like like I was introduced to this via this, and like it was like literally tugging strings. Like I almost cried during the exhibition, low key. And it was literally just like wow, like I never realized like shit like this exists. And
That's dope.
I was honored, obviously to be able to tell my story coming up next week. And it's just one of those things where it's like I don't think, I could be mistaken, but I don't think I'm at the age or at the time frame in my life where I'm able to storytell.
Right.
But I feel like, I'm starting to see more so, working here and throughout my, career and everything, where people are actually listening. So it's like you almost like don't realize like you are able to tell your story. There's no like actual pinpoint like time frame where like, oh, like now I'm able to storytell.
Right.
You know what I mean? There's always somebody coming up, looking up to you. You know what I mean? As long as you're, that great model or you mean the best to your abilities and be able to just tell that knowledge and like put the person in the right direction,
Right.
I feel like you're doing very just to the next generation.
No, that's dope. And I just think that, listen, man, as long as you have passion in your heart and you have knowledge in your head, man, you can build with anyone, man.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like I didn't think I was going to be a part of anything that I'm doing today as far as media, books and TV and film and even creating fashion. I'm telling stories through clothing these days. Everything that I create has a backstory. You know what I mean? So I'm constantly telling stories, but it's only because, again, I've taken the time to really understand the culture, to understand people, being someone that's traveled globally, being in different, ciphers and in the company of not only people that shit have money, but just people that are still got boots on the ground, living this thing. They getting it in daily, man. So I
Yeah.
feel like, and that's my Gemini side, right? I'm happy to be hanging out, with cats that are caked up, and I'm happy to be hanging out with dudes in the hood, if that's what it comes down to, because I'm always going to be a part of the culture. But you can tell those stories if you have the knowledge.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to
Mhm.
build. You know what I mean? So, I feel like you guys have a platform here, man. You have something that we didn't have 30 years ago. We didn't have all this fancy equipment. We didn't have a storefront. We didn't have economic opportunities like this. We were hustling.
Yeah.
You understand? So you have a platform, and you guys should acknowledge that and say, you know what? I think we may be able to do bigger and better things here. You know what I'm saying? Like, we are passing the baton to you. You
Yeah.
cats are the torchbearers, and you have resources. So you have to decide, how can we take those resources? How can we take the knowledge that we know for this industry, that we have for this industry, and continue to keep that narrative going, keep the conversation going? How can we create economic opportunities for your kids?
Yeah.
Because it ain't about me now. It's about my grandkids. It's about my children. I'm a big art collector. I have tons of dope artwork. You come to my crib, it's nothing but, APs, artist, proofs, and just limited stuff. I have tons of shit.
Yeah.
I have my own museum at home, and that's why I don't give out my address. But yeah, like, this is for me to enjoy now, but for my kids to inherit later.
Word.
All that stuff is already valuable.
Yeah.
I was gonna auction some stuff off at Sotheby's recently, but I was like, nah, it's not the time to do it.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? There's some stuff I'm gonna donate to the Universal Hip Hop Museum. Those are all friends up there in the Bronx. I love what they're doing with that, but that's my 401k.
Word.
You understand? Being
Right.
able to give all of those jewels to my kids, and those are art Picassos. One
Yeah.
of my clients is Baron Claiborne. He's the photographer that shot Biggie with the crown on his head. It's the most iconic image in the world, and it's the most stolen image in the world, right?
Mm.
So he gifted me a huge print signed, for all the work that I've done with him. I put it in like a beautiful, the frame alone is like $600, French gilded gold, beautiful. And it hangs proudly in my office. And to me, that's the Picasso that I'm going to give to my kid when she's older.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Because I know it'll be worth something later, but it's not about the dollar amount. It's enjoying the artwork. My whole environment is visual. Like
Yeah.
when I walk in my office every day, everything that I love, I'm surrounded by. Everything. Family photos right next to Biggie, or you know what I'm saying, a Jamel Shabazz image or what have you. All of that is in my world because it's special to me. But one day it'll be special to someone else,
Nah, word.
whether they want to put it in their home or they want to put it on the auction block. But just surround yourself with what you love, man. Same thing here, man. Just kicks everywhere. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? That's a beautiful thing,
Nah, word.
Is it a full circle moment for you to be working in an industry that you grew up also watching grow? No.
Yeah, I always say that I was growing up while hip hop was blowing up. So I watched it go from a adolescent to a grown man too. Hip hop is 50. I'm 53.
Yeah.
So we're like brothers and shit. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's almost surreal sometimes, man, because again, I didn't think I was gonna be doing any of this shit. At one point in high school, I wanted to be a lawyer. And nowadays I'm half a lawyer from working with all my clients,
Yeah.
Working on settlements, intellectual property that gets stolen all the time. You know what I mean? To just going through tons of agreements for projects, all types of media projects. I'm constantly reading agreements, releases. So yeah, man, it's dope to be a part of all this great shit that I didn't even think would exist. You know, I didn't think there was going to be an industry. I knew it was special. I knew
Yeah.
it was going to last, but dude, you have to understand, you know, we're buying kicks to look fly.
Hmm.
I don't think anybody thought that we could potentially make money from this.
Yeah.
It had to be figured out.
Hmm.
Again, you're learning on the job.
Now we're
You know what I'm saying? And I didn't think I was going to be working with Nike or Adidas.
yeah.
Like I'm in Paris with Adidas. Like they're basically like, you guys are the ones that are responsible for these events that are happening.
Yeah.
You don't see it because you're in it. You don't
Mhm.
take enough time to step back and look at it. But I'm like, man, I'm with these executives that are calling shots and now working with Polo, with my man Thurston Howell III. You know, everything that he's doing. You know, this is a guy that once upon a time, him and his crew stole millions of dollars worth of Polo because they couldn't afford it
Hmm.
and they wanted to be fly. But you know, as things would happen, they actually promoted the brand. They made it a religion throughout the world,
Yeah.
and it made Ralph millions, millions. So they gave it back. Whatever they took, they gave back tenfold
Yeah.
to the company to the point that now he's working. He was the first Latino to be on a global ad campaign last year with the Polo shirt book that they did. Him and his son Jesus are famously on that whole campaign, and it were billboards all over the world with him. And again, this is a brother from Brownsville, Brooklyn, hip hop fiend like myself, and he's being honored, you know, by being on a billboard with the likes of Tyson Beckford and all these other celebrities for a company that, again, he was stealing from as a kid.
Yeah.
And I remember when we met Ralph Lauren at his premiere at the Met, you know, for his HBO premiere. It was a great moment. And that was our goal to meet Ralph that night. I said, Thursday, we're going to meet Ralph tonight. And after the premiere, I noticed that, though during the premiere, I noticed Ralph kind of snuck out 20 minutes before it left. And he went downstairs to the reception, him and his brother Jerry. And I said, that's where we're going to find him. And we went down there, and there's the man himself, him and his brother just chilling. Nobody was there. It was just me, Thurston, Ralph Lauren, and his brother.
Yeah.
And Ralph recognized him. He said, I know you. And put out his hand. And I'm the only one that has a photo of Ralph Lauren and Thurston Howell III. I documented that because I was like, this is iconic.
Yeah.
This is iconic. And so yeah, even him, everything he's doing now is incredible. The series, you know, that he's shopping on his life. We had a deal with HBO Plus. It bottomed out because they merged with the Discovery Channel and they cut a lot of programming. So unfortunately, they cut the project that they bought from us. So now we're reshopping that. But yeah, man, there's a lot of other dudes out there like myself who grew up in this thing and devoted their lives to it that are now reaping the rewards of being committed to something as beautiful as hip hop culture, man. So again, if this is what you love doing, footwear, open up 10 more of these stores and then show kids how to do it.
Word.
Teach them how to be business owners and teach them how to create their own line of kicks. Or if they have to work with these companies like Pharrell and Virgil and all these other cats that are working with brands now, put that shit in their head, man. Tell them, you know, if they're an artist, say, yo, kind of what do you want to do? Word. You know, you can work for these companies and have an influence on global culture, right? Nobody's telling them that shit. That's why they're not doing it. They're saying, go work as an accountant. You know, being a lawyer is cool, but you know how many lawyers I know that leave the practice?
Yeah.
One of my lawyers in San Francisco left to become, he got into the cannabis space. Tired of being a lawyer. So again, do what you love. Don't just chase dollars, man, because one day you'll be, you know, you'll sit down with yourself and be like, damn, you know, I'm not happy.
Yeah.
I'm rich, but I ain't happy. You know, so do what makes you happy, man, and do a lot of it. And then teach somebody else to do it. You know, your family, your neighbors, show them how to do that shit, man, because there's a lot of people out here with talent and they just want somebody to listen to them and point them in the right direction. You understand? And That's how we can help. Your platform is important.
Word.
Everything that I'm doing is important. That's why I speak to kids every year. I'm in at least 2 schools speaking to kids and putting that shit in their head, saying you can be whatever you want to be. You understand? If you have talent, don't just chuck it to the side. You know how many DJs I knew that gave up DJing because they grew up?
Mm-hmm.
Their wives were like, you can't do that no more. You got to go get a job. Okay, well, you can work and still do it on the side. That's what I was doing.
Yeah.
I was building companies while I was working for companies, you know, and now I have 2 that are super sustainable. You understand? So you can do it. You know, don't give up on it, man. And that's it, man. Thank you, brothers, for having me, man. I
No,
really
of course.
appreciate it.
We appreciate you
No, thank you for
coming.
coming.
For
Word.
sure, man. All right, guys. I hope this has been a very eventful, educational, inspiring episode for you guys. Again, thank you, Cole Rodriguez, for coming on.
Pleasure, fam.
Thank you, Director, for having a very early session. If you can't tell, it's very early in the morning.
I saw all the coffee up there.
Yeah,
man.
that's
You
why
probably
there's
ran through
that's
it.
why there's no alcohol. We're not that deep into that realm. But yeah, guys, that's it for this episode. Thank you. Take care.
Peace.